who is funding police. In Chicago, over the first 6 months of this year, homicide rates are down 32%. Shootings have dropped 37%. We need to build on this success, not ignore it. During my time as chair of this committee, I held more than a dozen hearings on reducing violent crime. We focused on legislation, not lamentation. I reported numerous bills supporting law enforcement that were signed into law by President Biden, including Protecting America's First Responders Act and the Recruit and Retain Act. And we passed the historic bipartisan Safer Communities Act to crack down on gun violence. Instead of political theater and partisan attacks, we should focus on providing proven efforts like the HEAL Initiative, a project I launched in 2018 with 10 of Chicago's largest hospitals to address the root causes of violence in 18 Chicago neighborhoods with the highest rates of violence, poverty, and health disparity. Unfortunately, President Trump has done everything he can to undermine efforts like this. He cut $169 million from community safety funding authorized by the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He cut $72 million in funding for state and local law enforcement. The 2026 Trump budget would slash the High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program, better known as HIDA, by more than a third, from about $300 million to $196 million. These HIDA cuts are strongly opposed by law enforcement, and the Trump White House itself conceded that HIDA is, quote, an effective and efficient use of taxpayers' money and an important tool in the nation's effort to stop drug trafficking and save American lives. While President Trump claims to be tough on crime, he granted full and unconditional pardon to nearly 1,600 January 6 rioters, including more than 600 charged with assaulting law enforcement. Here's the reality. President Trump isn't interested in reducing crime. He's interested in political posturing. 100 troops into the city of Chicago. Did you hear the announcement this morning by the Secretary of Defense? One of the characteristics he insists on when it comes to building a strong military is that it be apolitical. His word, apolitical. The president has deployed thousands of troops to Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and made disturbing threats to wage war against Chicago, Portland, and other American cities. Let's be clear, these are illegal, unconstitutional, and un-American power grabs by the president that actually endangers Americans. President Trump is looking for an excuse to send soldiers into American communities so he can play the role of strongman on television. In Illinois, his misguided mass deportation is targeting communities, but it's not making them safer. Remember the litany that we heard over and over again about immigrants to this country? Rapists, murderers, terrorists, the criminally insane. Did you know that 70% of the immigrants detained so far by the president so far have no criminal conviction? None. The administration's main focus seems to be photo ops for social media, like these pictures from downtown Chicago of armed, masked men just happened to feature the Trump Tower in the background. And just yesterday, we learned the Department of Homeland Security requested the deployment of 100 military personnel to Illinois over the objections of the governor. Simply put, despite what the Secretary of Defense said at Quantico this morning, the president's use of the military to police American streets is political theater, staged for his MAGA supporters, not effective law enforcement aimed at making communities safer. Meanwhile, thousands of FBI, DEA, and ATF agents, as well as thousands of service members across this country, have been diverted from critical missions to carry out the president's immigration agenda. Not surprisingly, federal drug prosecutions this year have dropped to the lowest in decades. So to parade the military in these cities, we are diverting talent and skill away from federal drug prosecutions. Does that make America safe? We need to support law enforcement and policies that improve and not erode trust between them and our communities. As a ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I will not sit idly by while this president tramples the Constitution. And I will use every tool at my disposal to reduce crime and protect our communities in a lawful way that promotes lasting change. I yield.
Yeah, I want to take a minute to say something to emphasize what I said, and I'll give you a minute if you want to react to what I say.
Can you put the microphone?
Democrats missed a key data point when they assert that the most violent cities are in red states. Almost all of those cities are run by Democrat mayors. Axio reports that of the 20 cities with more than 100,000 residents and the highest murder rate, 19 have a Democrat mayor. President Trump is willing to work with these mayors, but they keep turning down the offer for help despite the fact that President Trump's efforts are working in places like D.C. and Memphis. Without objection, I'd like to enter into the record press releases from DEA and the Marshal Service detailing these successes. Do you have anything you want to say? No. Okay. Then I'll introduce the three witnesses from our panel, and Ranking Member Durbin will introduce his. Then we'll swear in the group and take their testimony. First is Mrs. Felicia Cook. Ms. Cook is a D.C. local. Her life was turned upside down on April 23, 2017, when her grandson Marty was shot, killed. He was a hardworking 22-year-old man who left the house that day for a date. Marty never returned home. He was shot 7 times. Thank you for appearing, Mrs. Cook. Now we have Detective Greg Pemberton. Detective Pemberton worked at the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. He's head of the D.C. Police Union. As head of the union, Detective Pemberton represents over 3,000 women and men of the Metropolitan Police Department. Detective Pemberton brings his firsthand experience battling crime to Washington, D.C. to discuss current policies. Thank you. Finally, we have Tennessee's State Senator Brent Taylor. Senator Taylor hails from Tennessee's 31st District, which covers a portion of the city of Memphis and its surrounding suburbs. Since being elected to office in 2023, Senator Taylor has been known for being tough on crime. Senator Taylor knows well the impact that progressive soft on crime policies have on cities. I'm grateful for his leadership in his home state to combat these policies. Senator Durbin.
Gregory Jackson Jr. is here, president of the Rocket Foundation, founded in 2022 to end gun violence in America. A gun violence survivor himself, he previously served as deputy director of the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention and special assistant to President Biden. He's also served as executive director of the Community Justice Action Fund, which advances policies to address gun violence. Thanks for being here, Mr. Jackson. Yeah. And we also welcome Major General William Enhart, a retired member of the U.S. Air Force and Army National Guard. His nearly 36-year military career, including active duty service in the Air Force, 30 years in the Army National Guard. His service culminated as Adjutant General of the Illinois National Guard, commanding both the Air and Army National Guard from 2007 to 2012. He previously served as Brigadier General and Deputy Commanding General of the Illinois Army National Guard. Thank you, Major Enhart, for being here today.
Now I ask if you'll stand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yeah. Let the record reflect that all the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Mrs. Cook, we'll start out with you. And sometimes make sure you push the red button. Yeah.